Hey church, Caleb here. For those of you who don't know, I am one of the church's missionaries. Currently I am not overseas, I'm in Australia because of the coronavirus stuff. But during the meantime, David has sent me some questions to answer for you guys about missions, why we need it, and can it just be done on the internet like everything else right now? And I'm here to answer that. So, cool. First question, do we still need missionaries? The question is absolutely yes. We currently have, I think, like 7.5 billion people on the planet. 3.15 billion of those people have no access to the gospel and no recognized church. Many of them don't even have Bible translation work started. A lot of them do have Bible translation work started and in the works. And they have portions of scriptures, but many of them just don't have any sort of effort in that regard started. So we can see that there's a pretty big need for missionaries to get out there. There's plenty of different calls in the Bible for people to go to the nations. In fact, a lot of the time we can only just think of, a couple examples in the New Testament among the Great Commissions. But if we look all the way back to Genesis 12, we see an example of a command to bless the nations in there. We see God promising to Abraham to bless his family and make his family a blessing to all nations. And for the most part, when we look at that word nations throughout the Bible, it is this word ethne, which refers to people groups. It refers to ethnic groups, which is a group of people usually with a shared history, a shared language, and a shared culture. It is the widest group you can go to with an effort to reach the gospel, to use a similar tactic and a similar culture understanding to avoid the most confusion that you can. So we still have a pretty big need in the world. There's about 16,000 people groups that they know about, and roughly 7,000 of them have nominal or zero access to the gospel. The next question that he posed was, can we just do this online? I think when we all look at our lives right now, we can see in front of us that doing things online pales to doing things in person, right? Having somebody next to you that you can physically see and hang out with them and have the benefit of fellowship works better than doing it online. I think we're all finding that right now. I think we're all pretty keen for the world to get back to normal so we can meet in person again. Not to say that it isn't still good, but it's just not the best. We can all see that. It's the same with the Great Commission. There are just aspects of it which I don't think could be effectively done online. Discipleship can kind of be done online, I guess Skype dates and all that sort of thing. But when you think about it, the initial meeting of a person, it just doesn't really work the same way when it's online. Like just hitting some random guy up in a different country and saying, hey, you heard about Jesus? I don't think that's effective. Also, church planting, I can't really think of any way that could work online either. So I do believe it needs to be in person. And when we look at the list of people groups that exist in the unreached category, majority of them aren't in places with reliable internet. So that's also another reason why it probably won't work. So we do need people physically to go overseas to help complete this great missionary task that we are faced with and will continue to be faced with. I just encourage you guys to get in and have a look at a lot of those Bible verses that refer to us needing to get out there in the nations. The word nations pops up so many different times throughout scriptures, especially through the Psalms if you think about it. And it's all the way throughout the whole Bible. So get into those, dig into the Word, see what God says about the nations and what our interactions with the nations should be. And reflect on your own life and see what your interactions with people from other cultures should be. Australia is a diverse place. There are plenty of different ethnic groups right in front of us on our doorstep. How can we be reaching them? I have a group of friends from Sri Lanka here, and I am their only Australian friend. How does that happen? How do we have cultural divides in our own country? It's crazy. And also, I just ask you to evaluate and consider the question, could God be calling you to missions? Could God be calling you to go into the nations? Right now, when the world opens up, we're going to have a really great opportunity to see awesome works started for God. I think this is probably going to be a pretty cool time of revival. Every time there's been some disaster and Christians have been the first on the ground, most cases it is followed by revival. So think about this. Could this be your time to get in on missions? Thanks guys. If you have any questions at any point about missions, feel free to hit me up. Maybe Dave will get me to do another video at some point. But yeah, thinking of all of you, hey? See yous.